Hi everyone. Let's talk today about creating your dream self and making changes that actually last. I know that New Year's is coming up, and with that, all the talk is about resolutions and changes. And what I find with this is that when we go with the route of creating this huge list of goals and we get all excited, within the first month, we usually have some kind of burnout or crash, and we fall back into old habits and then end up being disappointed in ourselves. And I don't want you to take that route. There's a better way, and I'm going to share that with you today. I have my notes here, I have my tea, and I'm ready. So, I've been using this process for the last, several years now, always when I've had to do a new health upgrade, when I wanted to get to that next level of feeling good, my body and my mind and my spirit, and being more connected. And every time it has worked and actually been able to create sustainable change that actually lasts over a longer period of time, not just a quick fix. So the first thing is to choose the most pressing issue to work on. And when I say issue, it could just be the thing you want to up level now. But instead of doing, well, I want to do my finances and my health and my relationships and this, that becomes overwhelming. And you also as a person, as your mind and your body, how it functions, it's too much. It's too much change at one time. Change for humans is difficult. You may have already noticed this yourself. It can take a lot to actually create a big change, and sometimes that's why it can take years for us to finally make that change we've been wanting to. So instead of creating this huge list, think about what is the one thing that will make the biggest impact for you if that would change. Maybe it's something with your health. Maybe it's related to your finances. Maybe it's about relationships or dating. Whatever area it is in, choose the one singular focus that will create the biggest difference for you now. And this is really interesting because when I went about this and I went with my health, when you even focus on that one thing, you will see that as you up level, as you create positive changes in that one thing, other areas in your life are also affected. But it is so much more effective to just focus on the one rather than the all three or all four, and creating that overwhelm for yourself from the start. So that is step one. With this as well, with the thing that you want to work on, the most pressing thing, we're going to choose a new identity for yourself. So currently, as you are, you have a certain identity. What I mean by that is if I'm upgrading my health, for instance, but right now my identity is, well, usually I'm healthy, but sometimes I'm not, and sometimes just depends on how I feel. Well, your identity is a bit wishy-washy. It can move. So that means that even though you have this goal of, okay, I'm going to make this change in my health, the next time you're in an environment or maybe you're around someone that says, hey, why don't you just eat this? Why don't you just try this or do this? Even though you have a goal that says the opposite, because your new identity is not in place, you are going to lean and be more opt to actually go for eating that bad thing or doing that thing you said you weren't going to do. So what I mean with a new identity is to become firm of who you actually want to be. So for instance, my identity when I was making the health change is I am strictly not eating gluten, not eating dairy, not eating refined sugars. That's it. No one can move me from that, and nothing can move me from that. That is my new identity. That is who I am deciding to be. That is who I am now. And when I make that decision, firm decision, no matter what restaurant I went to, no matter where I traveled to, no matter who I was going out to eat with, it does not matter what is around me. I have made a decision. No, I am not a person who eats gluten or dairy or refined sugars. This is me. So the other things I just don't see. And it's a very easy decision. This makes your decision process really easy as well. So when you're going out into the world, when you know I have this new identity, this is who I am, this is how I'm carrying myself, this is how I'm behaving, there is a lot less energy being used on making a decision. Should I do this? Should I not do that? Should I be like this? Should I just let myself slide this one time? No. You're staying very firm to your new identity. In this as well, whenever you slip out of that, you can know in the back of your mind, it's like a black hole. For instance, if I would go to the restaurant and I would just say, all right, I'm going to eat gluten today. It is a black hole that I'm going to step into the moment I eat that. Because the moment I eat that, afterwards, I'm not going to feel so good, but it's also going to drag me energetically down to that past identity who does eat gluten. And I will be more apt to eat it again, very closely to that first time that I caved and I moved. So whenever you shift away from this identity, just know that it's really like a black hole. And the moment you just put one little finger in, you are going to be sucked down it. So it also helps you to really stay focused on, nope, this is who I am and this is where I'm going. Second thing, take your power back. A lot of times when we're creating changes, and I've noticed this in myself as well, there can be this resistance to it, and almost all these excuses come up for it as well. Oh, well, I can't today because it's Sunday and I'm going to start on Monday. Or I can't today because it's the holidays, so, I'll wait till after the holidays. Or, oh, I can't today because, someone might not approve of it. Or what will this person think? Well, all of that is giving your power away. Whether it's to the environment, to the circumstances, to another person. All of that puts us in a very deep victim mode. And in that way, we almost allow things to be set up in a way that will not benefit us. And the question here is not to blame ourselves for maybe being a victim or making excuses, but instead asking, or better yet, journaling, I journal on this, how is this benefiting me? So the behavior that you want to change, or the excuses that you're making, or the way that you're staying in this kind of victim mode, how is it benefiting you? For me, when I looked at this, I noticed that it was benefiting me in the way of it was keeping me in connection with people who I thought I really needed. And without that, I was scared. Like, who would I be without those connections? Would I make new friends? Would I have a different environment to go to? And so in every kind of behavior, whether we like it or we don't, there's always a benefit to it. It's benefiting us in some way. So when we can journal on that and really check in, what's behind it? What's at the root of this? We can come towards us with a lot more compassion and understanding towards ourselves. Instead of being like, oh, you just have to make this change and just get out of it. When we have more awareness of why we're doing something or why we're having trouble actually creating a change, that's when the hold on us starts to release, that grip that keeps us stuck. It starts to have a little bit of breathing room. And from there, changes can be created in a more sustainable way, and in a way that's also more supportive. For example, with eating, let's say, if I'm constantly eating junk food, it is benefiting me in some way. It is keeping me stuck and keeping me safe in some way. It is helping me stay in something that I know. So on the other end of that as well, we can ask ourselves, what is the fear? What are we afraid for on the other side? And when you look into that, you'll also find another root of why you're stuck in a certain cycle, or why something is holding you back from really going to that next level or creating that positive change. And again, it creates that sense of compassion for yourself and understanding, and even bigger awareness. So when you are creating the change and you do notice those different resistance patterns coming up, you can behave and act differently with them because you know better now. You know differently now. The third thing is creating a vision feeling board. This was so helpful for me, especially on my health journey. I see a mistake that's very often made is we make vision boards with different pictures, different things we want, different lifestyles, and different things that we're drawn to. And while that's beautiful to have a vision board and to look at that and keep an eye on it, what I find is often a mistake is that we forget to focus on the feeling. So more so we're focused on how something looks like rather than what it feels like. And I will tell you from looking at my past vision boards is I've had a lot of the things actually happen and come true, but I wasn't satisfied with some of them. And when I got back to it and I really looked at it, I realized that I created a vision board based on how something looks rather than how it would feel for me to have that. And so the feeling behind something is so much more important than how it looks on the outside. Because I will tell you, something can look so beautiful and so perfect on the outside, that dream thing can happen, and it might not actually feel the way that you thought it would. So instead, focus in on how do you want to feel? So when you lose the weight, when you get the relationship, when you get the finances, how will you feel in your body? And start to actually tune into that. How does that feel inside? And that energy, that's the difference that's going to be, that's what's going to make the biggest difference. Because when you focus on the feeling, then how something comes true in life and how it looks on the outside might be different than what you imagined, but it will usually be so much better. Because instead of focusing on the outside thing, you're focusing on, gosh, this is the feeling I'm going to have. And this is even bigger and better than anything actually looking like a certain picture. And it also gives room for the universe to come in and make things happen even better than you ever imagined. Because as humans, we're quite limited in how we see things and possibilities for ourselves. Usually we only see the possibilities that we are used to or that we know. But the thing is that the universe and this world has so many infinite possibilities that our limited minds just can't think of yet. So when we focus in on how do I want to feel, and then you can make a vision board based on pictures of a feeling that bring a feeling to you, that is going to make a bigger difference than actually just picking images of how something looks. And with that as well, what makes such a big difference is meditating and visualizing on this feeling and how it starts to look, the pictures that start to come to mind. And when you start to visualize that, it comes true because you start to program yourself for that ahead of time. One of the biggest mistakes I've made in my past is that I tried to create changes first before bringing it into my mind and on a soul level in my body. So what I would do is I would try to make, for instance, diet changes, or I would just try a different exercise regime. And it would never get me very far. It would get me to a certain point, but not to that point that I wanted to be. So what I realized that actually first, you have to start to imprint this into your body. And so through meditation and visualization, you actually start to bring forward images and feelings inside. And your nervous system, your body starts to actually hold that in. And when it brings that in and it starts to remember that, because your mind does not know the difference between what's reality and what's imagined. So when you start to really bring that in, you start to fuel it inside, it starts to come true on the outside. Example, imagine you start to feel so good on this inside and you start to imagine and visualize yourself in your perfect body, wearing clothes that you love, feeling so vibrant and shining and glowing, and your skin is glowing. That's what I used to visualize. I did it in the sauna every single morning. I would sit in and I would just visualize and imagine myself like in this dream body, feeling so good in my clothes, feeling so light, feeling really confident and playful and just in so much joy. And the more I brought this image to myself, the first few times felt like, oh, like, how is that going to happen? And like the how of my brain came up a lot. But then it started to sink in. And what I noticed is then after, 30 days, after more time passed, it started to become real. And I would also start to make very different choices because that is what was starting to be ingrained in me. So instead of reaching for the chips, I would automatically go towards grabbing an apple or drinking more water or, going for a walk rather than those old habits that weren't helping me. And it was happening because my brain was already programmed for this new identity that I had. And as I stepped into that, the reality started changing as well. And this was so magically powerful because it helps you create the shifts in a much more easeful way rather than when you don't do that, you have this identity, your past version, and then you have your new identity. And what happens is often they're like clashing. So this is why sometimes we experience a lot of resistance to change. And when we do start changing, there's self-sabotage that comes in. It's because this old self is here pulling you back, and this new version is trying to pull you there. And they're almost opposing each other. And when that happens, there's a lot of friction and as well energy lost. So the best thing we can do is really bring that into our body through already envisioning it, through feeling it. Feeling is the most important because this imprints into our DNA, into the body. And then you'll notice automatically you start to make different choices and you start to behave very differently. It's a very exciting one. It's one of my favorites. The fourth is to design an environment that supports you. So, for example, with the health journey, I knew that if I had junk food in the house, that would not support me because that would make it 10 times harder to stay on track. So what I do? Got rid of it. Any kind of junk food that would pull me into the opposite direction, goodbye. See you later. It's not in my sight. It's not in my environment. And I set up my environment in a way that would help me make it so easy to make these changes. And even in moments where I felt the resistance, I wanted to just crack, I just wanted to fall back, I couldn't because my environment was there to support me in that way. This also has to do with not only, the surroundings, but also the support and the people you have around you. So, for example, it also meant saying no to a lot more things and cutting out certain relationships because I knew that if I wanted to step into this higher version of myself, this version that I know I'm meant to be, where I feel good, I know that certain people in my life weren't helping me to get there. So, for instance, if you have that person that's drinking all the time, partying, or eating junk food, and when you go around them, it's going to be so much harder to stick to your own journey, then it's time to maybe create some distance with certain environments in your support system. Or ask for support in the way of helping you to reach your goals. So with certain friends, okay, we're saying, well, I'm on this new journey. This is what I'm stepping into. If you notice that I'm having trouble, can you help me and support me in this way? And the people who are there to help you and do love you will be there for you and they'll be happy to be there for you. The other thing as well is in surrounding yourselves with coaches and mentors, maybe a therapist, to help you along that journey. Because it's so much more helpful to have that support from the outside as well. And someone who might already be in the energy which you're trying to step into. That is so important. When you surround yourself with friends, with people, with coaches, mentors, whoever it is, who already have what you want, or they're already embodying that kind of energy you want to feel, it's going to lift your energy up as well to be in that kind of aura. So when you're looking at your environment, you really want to check in. What is the aura around me supporting me in? Is the aura around me, is it supporting me in helping me to this goal or this dream version of myself? Or is it making it really difficult? Is it holding me back in some ways? And checking in with where are the tweaks, where are the changes that you can make there to actually help you. And really do not be afraid to ask for support, because none of us are here to do things on our own. And with a connection, change is so much more easier and so much more fun. So the last thing is, what would this version of myself do now? So asking yourself, what would this version of yourself do? How would they behave? How would they speak? Where would they go? How would they behave and interact with the world? This is so important, because often I see in the spiritual world is just lean back, keep envisioning this person, keep just thinking about it and believing it, and it's going to happen. And while that's beautiful and it's such an important step, there also needs to be the aligned action that goes with it. And sometimes that happens before we truly feel like it. For example, when I was making a new group of friends that were more high vibe and aligned with me, I knew that there were days that I just didn't feel like going out. I didn't feel like meeting new people and networking and going out into the world. And it was just so much more comfortable to be in my comfort zone and stay at home and kind of bundle up. And so while I didn't feel like it, I knew that if I asked myself, what would this version of myself do? This version of myself that has this amazing group of friends that are really aligned and inspiring and supportive, what would she do then? Well, she would go out there and she would go out there and she would get dressed up and she would meet people and she would interact and she would do things even when she didn't feel like it, or maybe even when it was out of her comfort zone. She would do that. And so I did. And that's what we have to check in with ourselves. What would this new identity version of us do? Because that is where the power is at. It's not in sitting with, well, today I don't feel like it, so tomorrow I'm going to do it. No, it doesn't work like that. Every single day matters, and every single day is going to propel us closer to that identity or take us further away and keep us locked into who we actually are not comfortable with, and we know that we can do so much better and we're here to feel better. And so it's our choice in each day to really check in. How would this version of me, how would she even wake up in the morning? What would she wear? How would she, what would she drink first thing in the morning? What would she eat? What would she put in her body? How would she move her body to feel good? Who would she interact with? What kind of friends, what kind of people does she have in her life? How does she speak to others? How does she treat others? How does she treat herself? What kind of work does she do? When we start thinking about that, when we start really getting into that, it just excites me even talking about it, because that's where the magic is. There's so much power in, even before you're ready, before you feel like it, just stepping into it. It's like the example as well of, for instance, if you're trying to level up in your career and you have a big meeting that you're going to, but there's this part of you that's like, oh shoot, I'm nervous, I'm scared, like I've never done this before. Well, check in. How would the new identity version of me show up? Maybe she's confident and bold and she knows what she wants and she's going for it. Walk into that room from that version, because that version is going to bring you more of what you want rather than this old past version. And no one has to know that you're showing up as her today. They will believe what they see. So allow yourself to show up as her and show up there proudly and without holding back. And just see what happens out of that, because that's where change starts to get imprinted as well in you. The more we do something, the more comfortable we get, the more it becomes very natural to us. And this is where confidence starts to come from. It stems not from sitting on the couch and looking on Pinterest on motivational quotes. No, that would be nice, but no. Real true confidence comes from doing and showing up as that version and really seeing what is possible for us. An example, when I started this YouTube channel, no idea what I was doing, but I knew that I wanted to share a message and I wanted to inspire others. And the first many times I did not feel very confident and I did not feel very ready. I didn't feel like doing it. I'll be very honest. I did not feel like being in front of the camera. But actually, it was in those times that I really, really didn't feel like it that I had to kind of talk to myself and be like, hey, Jessica, we're doing this today. What would this new identity of you do? It is time. We're going. Let's do it. And the more I did it, the better it started to feel. And the more easy it started to feel, and the more confident I started to feel in it. And that's where your confidence will come from too. Showing up as that new identity, not holding back, and doing it even when you don't feel like it. And I believe in you, because if I could do it, I totally believe that you can too. I know sometimes there's so much resistance to making changes, and it's very comfortable to be in this version of us that we know, and maybe that other people know as well. And sometimes that's the scariest part, is that we know that when we change, when we grow, maybe some people won't be along with us. And maybe it's going to require different changes, bigger ones than we expected. But I will tell you that always on the other side is not the thing that we fear so much. It's something so much grander and so much better that we just cannot see with our limited thinking in this moment. But we have to be willing to make the jump and make the change. This new year, 2023, I can't believe it. It is here for us. It is here for us to step into, but only you can decide how it's going to go. And don't let another year pass by and it's going to be 2024 and you're going to look back and be like, oh, I had all these dreams, all these aspirations, all these things I wanted to do, this way I wanted to be, yet I let fear hold me back, or I just didn't feel like it, so I never did it. This is your time to shine, and you are here to do so. I'm so excited to see what this new year is going to bring. I know that there's going to be so much more health, abundance, love, and all the prosperity, all the good things that are waiting for us, but we have to be ready to claim it. So I wish you a wonderful new year, and I'm so excited to see you in this new season.